again and welcome to the Hali Hewa podcast. We are actually wrapping day 2 at the Africa Climate Summit, and we've been here since yesterday getting different perspectives of African leaders, African founders, African innovators. And today evening, I have the pleasure of hosting a very wonderful guest, and I'll invite him to introduce himself. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Ahmed Iddris. I'm the Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross.
Amazing.
Thank
So
you.
tell us, why are you here?
I had nothing else to do. No, I'm
really?
just kidding. Look, I work for an institution that has been working on the most difficult part about the impact of climate change, which is the extreme climate events, floods, drought, and the impact it has on the communities. So as an institution that has for a number of years been working in supporting communities to deal with this impact, for us it was important to be part of the conversation, to be part of the discussion around the global policy to respond to the impacts of climate change. And that's why we came here to contribute to that discussion.
Great. And of course, in your experience, you're working very closely with communities who are at the forefront of the impacts of climate change. And over the years, of course, in your experience, would you say we are doing enough in terms of mitigating these impacts of climate change?
Yeah, so let's look at a number of things. One is when we talk about the impacts of climate change, we tend to assume that it has a uniform impact globally, which does not. I think the worst impact of climate change is felt in the developing countries. And more importantly, it is more felt by women and children in the developing countries. So that's the first one. Second, do you think we are doing enough? No, certainly not. And are there three areas that we need to put in more effort on? One is, how do we support communities adapt to the impacts of climate change, especially communities from developing countries such as Kenya, the communities that we work with and we work for. The second thing is, how do we take decisive, bold steps to address the short-term and long-term impacts of climate change? How do we globally commit to ensuring that we reduce the impact of global warming as a whole? And third, and more importantly, is how do we work as a global community to address this? His Excellency, the President of Kenya, yesterday in talking about the discussion around who's to blame and who's not to be blamed, emphasize that at the end of the day, it may not matter at this point in time who's to be blamed, but the fact that all of us need to work together to reverse the impacts of climate change and to address the negative impacts is something that we need to all work on.
Great. And of course, at the Africa Climate Summit, there are different conversations happening, but with a focus on green growth and climate finance. So, of course, tomorrow we're expecting the declaration, the Nairobi Declaration, to be read by the African heads of states. Would you say you have an expectation coming from a place of working directly with communities?
So look, first, very bold for Kenya to have hosted the conference in preparation for the COP28. I think this gives us an opportunity to, with one voice as a continent, address the COP28 and the leadership of the COP28 and say, this is what we're expecting from the rest of the world. So this idea of organizing this event was excellent. The opportunity is great. Second, what are the general expectations? We are hoping that, one, there'll be a united voice coming from Africa. I think that's the one and most important thing. Second, we hope that the discussions and decisions from here will be linked to past conferences. Otherwise, it will not be meaningful. So we need to link it to the decisions from COP27, from COP26, going forward to COP28. So things that I'm looking forward to hearing, much more on is, what are we doing, availing resources to help communities in adaptation? What is the discussion and commitment on filling the empty basket that is known as the loss and damage basket? And that is, I think, is one that all of us are looking forward to. And third and most important is for African governments to commit themselves and say, as governments, we are going to commit in our own way to do something about climate change. And if we achieve that, then it will be a successful conference where I see.
Great. And lastly, of course, you work very closely with communities. Would you say it's really, really important for us to have them when we are having these conversations? Because most of the time they're actually not here.
I think it's a problem of conferences. They've become elite spaces for people from specific backgrounds, specific economic classes, specific social groups to come and interact. at the heart of these discussions, we should have the people who are feeling the brunt of what climate change is. We need to be talking to the mothers, young mothers in places as far as Mandera, who every day have to deal with the negative impacts of climate change, of floods, of drought, of disease outbreak.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that in the future, especially as we prepare for COP28, those people will be on the table and their voices will be heard.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lovely having you.
Thank you very much.